Hello, brothers and sisters, and thanks for visiting today for the study of First Maccabees chapter 6, the last days of Antiochus Epiphanes. A lot of times people say that they think that he's the Antichrist who desecrated the temple and caused that issue, and that's something that's going on in Revelation. With my studies, I don't think it was him. That's something to come. But let's read First Maccabees chapter 6. May God bless us to you. May this word help you in your paths. Maybe it'll be some encouragement and help you through your days as it does me. King Antiochus was going through the upper provinces when he heard that Emilius in Persia was a, got famed for its wealth and silver and gold. Its temples were very rich, containing golden shields, breastplates, and weapons, left there by Alexander, son of Philip, and the Macedonian king, who first reigned over the Greeks. So he came and tried to take the city and plunder it, but he could not, because his plan became known to the citizens, and they withstood him in battle. So he fled in great disappointment, left there to return to Babylon. Then someone came to him in Persia and reported that the armies had gone into the land of Judea, had been routed, that Lysias has gone first with a strong force, but turned and fled before the Jews, and that the Jews had grown strong from the arms and supplies and abundant spoils they had taken from the armies they had cut down. They had torn down the abomination that he had erected in the altar in Jerusalem, that they had surrounded the sanctuary with the high walls before, and also Beth Zur, his town. When the king heard the news, he was astounded and badly shaken. He took to his bed and became sick in disappointment, because things had not turned out for him as the way he planned. He lay there for many days because of the disappointment continually gripping him. And then he realized that he was dying. So he called his friends and said to them, "Sleep has departed from my eyes, and I am downhearted with worry. I say to myself, to what distress I have come, and what a great flood now I am plunged. For I was kind and beloved in my power, but now I remember the wrong I did in Jerusalem. I seized all of its vessels of silver and gold, and I was sent to destroy the inhabitants of Judea without good reason. I know that because of these misfortunes that come upon me, here I am, perishing of bitter disappointment in a strange land." Then he called in Philip, one of his friends, and made him ruler of all of his kingdom. He gave him a crown and his robe and the signet so that he may guide his son Antiochus and bring him up to be king. This king Antiochus died died there in 149th year. Then Lysias learned that the king was dead, and he set up Antiochus, the king's son, to reign. Lysias had brought him up from boyhood and named him Epotar. Meanwhile, in the garrison in the citadel, he kept him. Meanwhile, in the garrison, the citadel kept hemming Israel around the sanctuary. They were trying in every way to and strengthen the Gentiles, harm them and strengthen the Gentiles. Judas therefore resolved to destroy them and assembled in the great people to besiege them. They gathered together and besieged the citadel in the 150th year. And then he built siege towers and other engines of war. But some of the garrison escaped from the siege, and the ungodly Israelites joined them. They went to the king and said, "How long do you fail to do justice and avenge our kindred? We were happy to serve your father and live by what he said and follow his commands. For this reason, the sons of our people besieged the citadel and became hostile to us. Moreover, they have put to death as many of us as they have caught, and they have seized our inheritance. It is not against us alone that they have stretched out their hands, and attacked all the lands on their borders. And to this day, they have encamped against the citadel in Jerusalem to take it, and they have fortified both the sanctuary and Beth Zur. Unless you quickly prevent them, they will do greater things, and you will not be able to stop them. The king was enraged when he heard this, and assembled all of his friends and commanders in the forces, and those in authority. Mercenary forces also came to him from other kingdoms and islands of the sea. The number of his forces were 100,000 foot soldiers, 20,000 horsemen, and 32 elephants accustomed to war. They came through Adumah and camped against Bethzer. For many days they fought and built engines of war, but the Jews sailed out and burned these with fire and fought courageously. Then Judas marched away from the citadel and encamped at Beth Zekra, opposite the camp of the king. Early in the morning, the king set out and took his army by a forced march along the road to Beth Zachariah, and his troops made ready for battle and sounded the trumpets. They offered the elephants the juice of grapes and mulberries to arouse them for battle. They distributed the animals along the fascines. With each elephant, they stationed 1,000 men and armored with the coats of mail and brass helmets on their head, and 500 picked up horsemen who were assigned to each beast. These took their position beforehand whenever the animal was, wherever it went, and went with it, and they were never left it. On the elephants were wooden towers, strong and covered. They were fastened on each animal by a special harness, and then on each there was 4 armed men who fought from there, and also its Indian driver. The rest of the cavalry were stationed on either side in the 2 flanks of the army to harass the enemy while themselves being protected by the phalanxes. When the sun shone on the shields of gold and brass, the hills were like ablaze with them, with like gleaming torches. Now part of the king's army was spread out on the high hills, and some of the troops were on the plain, and they advanced steadily and in good order. All who heard the noise by their multitude, by marching of the multitude and clanking their arms, trembled, for the army was very large and strong. But Judas and his army advanced in battle, and 600 of the king's army fell. Now Eleazar, called Alvran, saw that one of the animals was equipped with royal armor, and it was taller than the others, so he supposed the king was on it. So he gave his life to his people to win himself for the everlasting name. He courageously ran in the midst of the flanks to reach it, and he killed men left and right. They parted before him on both sides. He got under the elephant and stabbed it beneath and killed it, but it fell upon the ground on him and he died. When the Jews saw the royal might and the fierce attack on the forces, they turned away in flight. The soldiers of the king's army went to Jerusalem against them, and the king encamped in Judea at the Mount Zion. He made peace with the people of Beth Zur, and they evacuated the town because they had no provisions there to withstand a siege. Since it was sabbatical for the year, the king took Beth Zur and stationed guard to it to hold it. Then he encamped before the sanctuary for many days. He set up siege towers, engines of war to throw fire and stone, machines to shoot arrows, and catapults. The Jews also made engines of war to match theirs, and they fought for many days. But they had no food in storage because it was the 7th year. Those who had found safety in Judea from the Gentiles only had consumed the last of the stores. Only a few men were left in the sanctuary, and the rest were scattered in their homes, for the famine proved too much for them. Then Lysias heard Philip, whom King Antiochus was still having appointed to bring up his son Antiochus to be king, had had returned from Persia and Media with the forces that had gone with the king, and he was trying to seize control of the government. So he quickly gave orders to withdraw and said to the king, to the commanders of the forces and his troops, daily we grow weaker, and our food supply is scant. The place against us which we're fighting is strong, and the affairs of the kingdom press urgently on us. Now then, us come to terms with these people and make peace with them and their nation. Let us agree to let them to live by their laws as they did before. For it was on account of their laws that we abolished the things, and they became angry and did all these things. The speech pleased the king and the commanders, and he sent the Jews an offers of peace, and they accepted it. For the king and the commanders gave them their oath, and the conditions of the Jews evacuated the stronghold. But then the king entered Mount Zion and saw the strong fortress the place was, and he broke the oath he had sworn and gave orders to tear the wall down around it. Then he set off haste to return to Antioch, and he found Philip in control of the city, but he fought against him and took the city by force. So once again, there goes with the all the trouble came because the Greeks stopped the Jews in doing their practices, and that made it so they were angry, and there was battles, and those who would stood up for it uh, were able to take them down with that. This is behind me is supposed to be the Battle of Antiochus Epiphanes and raiding the temple. I believe he was the father that just died there with that, because that's when they took over, and due to Maccabee, as in our last one, came back and restored the temple, changed it back because he had sacrificed a pig, which, if you know about Jewish stuff, they don't like. That pigs are unclean. That's not something that you would put on the altar. That it's not something that they associate with themselves with. Caused issues with that. Oh, cool. Looks like my Bible can even show you better through it. Well, thank you for your time with this here. Thanks for studying Maccabees with me. And tune in next time for Maccabees chapter 6. This one's a YouTube only video, so it will be on other video sites, but please like it and subscribe so that you can hear more. And bless you. Have a great day.